just a flower from an old bouquet. I've waited patiently for you each day. You're just a dream come true, I know, dear. My dreams, wonderful dreams of you.
At number 10 in my Clara Bow movie countdown is Down to the Sea in Ships from 1922, directed by Elmer Clifton. This was Clara Bow's second film, just her second film. She was merely 17 years old when she did Down to the Sea in Ships. And she's not the main star of the film, but she does co-star in it as a character named Dot Morgan, who's the granddaughter of the senior character of the film, Captain Charles W. Morgan, who's played by William Walcott. Also starring in the film are Marguerite Courtot as Patience, Raymond McKee as Alan Dexter, and J. Thornton Baston as Samuel Siggs. And basically, this is a film that takes place in a Quaker society where a lot of the guys in the society work as whalers. And there's a love triangle thing going on between Patience, Alan Dexter, and Samuel Siggs. Captain Morgan, he wants Patience to marry Siggs because Siggs is a Quaker. He's a whaler kind of a guy, whereas Raymond McKee's character of Alan Dexter is not a Quaker or not a whaler. And Captain Morgan, he doesn't want Patience to marry Dexter. He wants her to marry Siggs. And so you got this whole love triangle thing going on. Plus a lot of footage of whalers doing their whaling thing out in the sea. And Clara Bow, bless her heart, she captures your heart in the supporting role of Dot Morgan as she sneaks on board the ship because she too wants to be a whaler, although apparently this Quaker society does not allow females to be whalers, but scrappy young Dot, she wants to be a whaler and she sneaks aboard the ship in disguise as a boy. So that's basically what you've got going on in Down to the Sea in Ships. I have to admit, this movie is amazing on a lot of levels, and yet it's not so amazing on some other levels. Let's get the downside stuff out of the way. First of all, it can be argued that the story isn't the greatest of stories, certainly in regard to the love triangle. It's not completely believable, I suppose, and the fact that Marguerite Courtot's character of Patience, she stays on land for the entire movie. She doesn't actually get on board the ship, and she just spends the whole movie pining for Alan Dexter and trying to convince her father not to force her to marry Samuel Siggs instead. You know, not the greatest of storytelling regarding the love triangle. And regarding all the whaling stuff, I have to admit, you're going to feel really bad for the whales in this movie. You're also going to feel very bad for the poor porpoise that shows up in this movie. But at the very same time, you have to consider the fact that this is a film from 1922. You also have to consider the fact that, well, this is the job that whalers do. They go out to sea and they kill whales. I guess because they need the oil from the whales or something like that. This is what they do. And that's what we see in the film. Clara Bow is magnificent as Dot Morgan, but she's not the main female in the film. So she definitely shows up for a good chunk of the film, but she's not in the entire film. She's very much a secondary supporting character, whereas Marguerite Courtot plays the main female character of Patience. I think the cinematography on this film is amazing. Absolutely amazing. The fact that they shot this back in 1922, over a century ago, and the cinematography is just marvelous, especially all the seafaring stuff when we're out at sea with the whalers and watching them do their whaling jobs. And it really is amazingly shot. And by the way, the ship in this film is an amazing ship. Beautiful, big, those gorgeous sails on top. I mean, it's an amazing ship. And that was shot very well. And again, you've got the marvelous performance of Clara Bow, just 17 years old in this film, playing Dot Morgan. And she's just so charming and she's just so adorable. And it can be argued that she practically steals the film. I mean, the main female, Marguerite Courtot, playing Patience, I mean, she is good. She is good. You know, she was certainly a good actress. But again, she spends most of the film on land pining for Alan Dexter. it could be argued it's not too much of a role, although Marguerite Courtot does the best that she can with it. And she was certainly a good actress, but I think she's definitely overshadowed by Clara Bow, who just totally steals the film whenever she's on screen as Dot. She's just so adorable and so charming. And the movie definitely shows that Clara Bow was definitely an up-and-comer. You know, she was definitely destined for big things, this young girl, this very talented young girl. Yep, big things were coming her way, definitely. And you can totally see that with Down to the Sea and Ships. So I do think overall Down to the Sea and Ships is a very good film. You say whatever you want to say about the depiction of the whales and what happens to them in this film. And again, the love story, not particularly believable. But I have to tell you, the cinematography is fantastic. Whenever we're out at sea, you know, it's a fascinating watch. Certainly all the seafaring stuff in this film. And again, the fact that it was shot over a century ago is amazing. So it's a very good film, not a perfect film, but very good. And we get to see Clara Bow in her earliest surviving film that's available for you and I to watch. And Clara Bow was definitely on her way with this one. So, yes, very good film overall, Down to the Sea and Ships from 1922. And I rank Down to the Sea and Ships at number 10. At number 9 on my Clara Bow movie countdown is Call Her Savage from 1932. This is a drama, and it's directed by John Francis Dillon. And in this film, Clara Bow plays a woman named Nasa Springer. And the plot of Call Her Savage, in short, is actually the offspring of a Native American man and a white woman. Tempestuous Texas heiress Nasa Springer grows up believing her father to be Pete Springer, a railroad tycoon. When her dad ships his emotionally troubled daughter off to a girls' school in Chicago and later arranges a marriage for Nasa, she defies him by wedding a drunken cad. After the marriage crumbles and she turns up pregnant, Nasa's life spirals out of control. And that's basically your plot of Call Her Savage. Well, Call Her Savage, I have to tell you, it's definitely one of my favorite Clara Bow films, no question about it. I mean, hey, it made my top 10. It's at number 9. And I also have to tell you that Call Her Savage probably contains Clara Bow's very best film performance. I mean, she gets to show off a whole range of emotions, comedy, drama. She runs the whole emotional spectrum in Call Her Savage. It's a wonderful bravura performance. She looks fantastic. She commands the screen. However, it has to be said that the frustrating part about Call Her Savage, which is why I don't rank it higher up on my top 10 list, is that it's not as good as Clara Bow's performances. You know, in other words, Clara Bow is wonderful in this film, but the movie surrounding her is not so wonderful. And that all boils down to the script, really. The movie is a short film. It's only about 90 minutes. And even though Clara Bow is the star of Call Her Savage, the fact of the matter is we don't see Clara in Call Her Savage for the first 10 minutes of the film. Instead, for the first 10 minutes of Call Her Savage, we get a little backstory about Nasa's mother rather than Nasa herself. And then right around the 10-minute mark, she finally shows up. And from that point on, she totally commands the film. So basically, Clara Bow's, her character of Nasa, her story is told in about 80 minutes. And that's too fast. I mean, we see in Call Her Savage, Clara Bow's character of Nasa, she goes from one experience to the next experience, to the next, 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 and very quickly, very rapidly. And it's times like this where I think Call Her Savage is too short a film. If this movie really wanted to show Nasa's journey properly, I think this film needed to be at least 2 hours long. The script definitely feels like it's edited. I mean, there's one scene where Clara Bow's character of Nasa, she discovers that she's pregnant and she has the baby for a little while, and then the baby dies in a burning building. And we get the initial scene of Nasa going, "Oh, my baby, my baby, my baby." And then the following scene where she and her Native American friend Moonglow is trying to comfort her after the loss of her child. And then in the very next scene, she's getting on with her life. It's like she got over the death of her baby very quickly, a little too quickly, I think. That's not Clara Bow's fault, of course, but that's definitely the fault of the screenwriter. So the movie is moving a little too quickly. But on the other hand, you've got Clara Bow giving a magnificent performance. She's also given great support. I mean, it's a great supporting cast surrounding Clara in this film. You've got Gilbert Roland as Moonglow, the Native American friend of NASA. He also appeared with Clara Bow in The Plastic Age from 1925. You've got Thelma Todd, a well-known actress from the 1930s, playing Sunny Delane, who was basically Clara's rival in the film. Willard Robertson as Pete Springer, NASA's father. And I also want to make mention of Monroe Owsley. Is that how you pronounce it? Monroe Owsley as Lawrence Crosby, who's the scumbag cad that NASA marries. I mean, these are all very talented actors. They're all giving really good performances in this film, especially Clara Bow, who totally deserved an Oscar nomination for her wonderful performance in this film. She really did. But I just think that the script for Call Her Savage feels heavily edited. And I just feel that NASA's story needed more time to breathe. All things considered, Call Her Savage, very good film, and it's a very good film because of Clara Bow's wonderful performance in it. Thanks to Clara Bow, I like Call Her Savage a lot, and I rank Call Her Savage at number 9. At number 8 is Hoopla from 1933. This was Clara Bow's final movie, folks. It was directed by Frank Lloyd, and the plot of Hoopla, according to the internet, is a dancer seduces the naive son of a carnival owner during Chicago's World Fair of 1933. And that is your plot of Hoopla. So yes, folks, Hoopla. This was Clara Bow's final movie. After Hoopla, Clara would retire from the film industry at the young age of 28. Basically, Clara was, at this point, very tired of the film industry, and she was also tired of the scandals. There had been some scandals regarding her personal life that had been going on around this time, and she just wanted to retire to the quiet life with her brand new husband, Rex Bell, who had co-starred with her in the 1930 movie True to the Navy. And, you know, she just didn't want to do the acting thing anymore. She just wanted to start a family with Rex and live the quiet life and not do film acting anymore. I mean, she'd been doing film acting now for 11 years from the time that she was 17. And so Hoopla was Clara Bow's final film. And it is a very good final farewell to our dear Clara Bow, even though it's not a perfect movie. I think even Clara Bow herself didn't think Hoopla was the greatest thing she had ever done, but she was coming to the end of her 2-picture contract with Fox, and she just wanted to get out of the film acting business, and so she went ahead and did Hoopla. But I have to give Clara Bow credit where credit is due. I mean, she threw herself into this film, knowing full well that this was going to be the last time she was ever going to grace the silver screen, and she gave a wonderful performance. And despite its flaws in the plot department, I still think that at the end of the day, Hoopla is still a very entertaining movie. I mean, besides the marvelous performance from Clara Bow, I do think that this is a very charming film. And alongside Clara, she's got a very good supporting cast. Very talented actors here who support her. And along with Clara, they really do sell this story. Even though it's not the greatest of stories, it's not the greatest of plots, but I really do think that Clara and her supporting cast are up to the task of selling this story and making it a very charming, fun, and entertaining film all the same. And I like it a lot. I have to get the criticisms of Hoopla out of the way. I have 3 basic criticisms of Hoopla. For starters, Clara is hidden from the movie for the first 14 minutes. That's even longer than Call Her Savage, where Clara was hidden from the film for the first 10 minutes. That's one criticism. Second of all, her character of Lou, who's a carnival dancer, she falls in love with Chris, played by Richard Cromwell, who's the son of the carnival manager, Nifty Miller, played by Preston Foster. And Chris, you know, to me, he's much too boyish rather than manly. You know, he comes across too much as a boy, golly gee whiz kind of young guy. Very much a boy rather than a man, even though he was of legal age. And for the record, Richard Cromwell, who played Chris, he was in fact 23 years old when he starred in this film alongside Clara. So he was definitely of legal age, but he definitely comes across like a boy rather than a man. And you got to wonder, what the hell would Lou see in him? Why would she fall in love with him? Well, she falls in love with him because the script says she falls in love with him. I mean, later on, Clara Bow's character, Lou, she tells the character Carrie, played by Minna Gombell, why she falls in love with Chris. She says, oh, Chris, he's just the sweetest kid, and he's shown me more kindness better than anybody else. And I still don't think it's completely believable why Lou would fall in love with Chris. But nonetheless, it's nothing on Clara Bow. I mean, she sells it 100%. I mean, she's totally believable in her performance. I just don't think the love story between them, script-wise, is completely believable. And the last criticism I have of Hoopla, there's a ridiculous scene in this movie where a total brawl breaks out at the carnival. And I don't understand for the life of me why everybody at the carnival would be fighting with each other just because one rude guy jumps onto the stage where Lou is, and Chris, wanting to defend Lou, he jumps onto the stage and he punches the jerk off the stage. And then the next thing you know, the entire carnival of people are fighting with each other. It turns into an all-out brawl between everybody at the carnival. Why is everybody fighting at the carnival? Just because one guy got punched by Chris on the stage, and now all of a sudden everybody at the carnival is fighting with each other. Why? That makes no sense at all. But other than that, I still think this is a very good film. Again, Clara Bow is marvelous in this movie as Lou. Knowing full well that this was going to be her final film performance, Clara Bow, she throws herself into this role with everything she's got, just as she does with every single one of her films. She's beautiful. She's totally believable in every single scene that she does. And I have to tell you, the final scene, the final fade out of Clara Bow as Lou at the very end of Hoopla, it may indeed bring a tear to your eye because it is Clara Bow's farewell to her audiences. It really is. I mean, Clara Bow, she looks so gorgeous. She looks so effervescent in that final scene, that final fade out that we see of her at the very end of Hoopla. It's almost as if Clara Bow is saying to her audience, that's it, folks. I'm out of here. I hope you've enjoyed my films. Good night. And it is indeed a beautiful send-off to Clara Bow. Another plus that I say about Hoopla is that I think she's given a very good supporting cast here. Again, Richard Cromwell as Chris, the boyish young man that Lou falls in love with, he's okay, I suppose. I didn't hate him in the role. I just think he was okay. But I think Clara Bow just totally outshined him, in my honest opinion. Preston Foster, who plays Nifty Miller, the manager of the carnival, he's really good. I like his tough, why I oughta, kind of personality about him. He's very good in the role of Nifty. I liked him a lot. And I will also make mention of Minna Gombell, who plays Carrie, another dancer at the carnival that Nifty is actually having a relationship with. I mean, she's his girlfriend, although they're definitely having personal issues between them. But I like Minna Gombell a lot as Carrie. But as I say, for Clara Bow's final movie, Hoopla is very good. I don't like the fact that she's hidden from the film for the first 14 minutes. Chris is a little too boyish, in my opinion, and the carnival brawl scene makes no sense to me. But other than that, Hoopla is very good. And it's a wonderful final performance from Clara Bow. So Hoopla, I like Hoopla a lot. Despite its flaws, I like it very much. And I rank Hoopla at number 8. At number 7 is Man Trap from 1926. This is a comedy directed by Victor Fleming, a very famous director. You may be familiar with the name Victor Fleming as he directed Gone with the Wind, and he also directed The Wizard of Oz. Both films released in 1939, but we're going back 13 years to 1926 with Victor Fleming directing Clara Bow in this comedy. And the plot of Man Trap, according to the internet, is backwoods Canadian Joe Easter, tired of his lonely existence in the rustic village of Mantrap, Canada, rolls into Minneapolis, and he weds flirtatious young manicurist Alverna and whisks her back to his cabin up north. But Alverna quickly grows bored in the sticks, and when Joe's friend Ralph Prescott, A divorce lawyer on vacation from women comes to stay with the newlyweds. She can't resist using her feminine wiles on the strapping newcomer. So, Man Trap. You'll be interested to know that Man Trap was Clara Bow's personal favorite movie, or at least according to the note that she left on an envelope of production stills from Man Trap that she left for her two sons upon her death, I believe. Apparently, in this envelope of Man Trap production stills, Clara Bow wrote on the envelope, "Here are production stills from Man Trap, the best silent picture I ever made." A little note there to her two sons. And it's not difficult to see why Clara liked Man Trap the best, because Man Trap is tremendous fun. This is a whole lot of fun, great entertainment, this particular comedy. Thank God it survives, and all the more so because it was Clara's personal favorite films. Clara Bow is just totally in her element here as Alverna, the manicurist who just can't stop flirting. She's wonderful here. She lights up the screen in every single scene that she's in. She's just a ball to watch in this movie. She's clearly having a great time, and she's just wonderful. She's just adorable, just charming, charming, charming. You just love her. Even though she's playing a shameless flirt, yeah, you still love her. So Clara Bow, she's wonderful in the role of Alverna. Also on board is Ernest Torrance as Joe Easter. He's the big lug who's from Man Trap, Canada, and he runs a dry goods store in Man Trap, and he comes to Minneapolis, and that's where he meets Alverna, and he winds up marrying her. And Ernest Torrance, he's quite good, playing this big, likable lug. I have to make mention of that funny scene in his cabin where he starts a big fire on the floor of his cabin. Thankfully, he puts it out, but I mean, that fire could have spread to the entire set of his cabin. I'm sure they had guys with fire extinguishers on standby just off camera in case something went wrong, but I definitely thought that scene was quite funny. But yeah, he's very likable in this movie, just playing this very likable lug who wins Alverna's heart and they get married, but darn it, Alverna just can't stop flirting with other men. But yeah, Ernest Torrance, he's quite good. Percy Marmont, he plays Ralph Prescott, the New York divorce lawyer who comes to Man Trap, and he meets Alverna, and Alverna starts flirting with him, and next thing you know, we got a love triangle going on. And Percy Marmont, he's quite good here. Percy Marmont, he has a very strong resemblance to David Bowie. Ground control to Major Tom. Yeah, he looks like David Bowie, or maybe I should say David Bowie looks like Percy Marmont, since Percy Marmont was before David Bowie. But he does have a passing resemblance to Bowie. But yeah, he's quite good in his role of Ralph Prescott. I think he's likable in the role. A little bit dry, perhaps, but still likable. So I think his presence in the film is good. I also want to make mention of Josephine Crowell as Mrs. McGavity, one of Joe's neighbors up in Man Trap. She's quite funny in her role as Joe's neighbor. I liked her a lot. And also Eugene Pallett as E. Wesson Woodbury, who's the guy who works in a lingerie store across the hall from Ralph Prescott, and it's Woodbury who convinces Ralph to take the trip to Man Trap, Canada, where a good chunk of the film's shenanigans take place. He's quite good. I enjoyed him in his role. Another thing I like about Man Trap is a lot of it was shot on location in Lake Arrowhead, California. They never actually went to Man Trap, Canada, but a lot of it was shot in Lake Arrowhead, and the photography on this film is just great. And just seeing all the beautiful mountains and the lakes, and very beautifully shot. I think Victor Fleming's direction of this film is tight. Yeah, Victor Fleming, he would only go onward and upward as a director, because sometime down the road he would also direct The Wizard of Oz and Gone with the Wind. But his direction here is very good. And yeah, it's a very funny film. It's a whole lot of fun, Man Trap. And I'm glad that Clara Bow named it her favorite film, according to that little note that she wrote for her sons on that envelope of production stills from the film. Thank God it survives. It really is one of her very best films, no question about it. And I rank Man Trap at number 7. At number 6 is Hula from 1927, directed by Victor Fleming. Yes, the same Victor Fleming who directed Clara in Man Trap, as well as Gone with the Wind and The Wizard of Oz in 1939. And yes, this is a comedy set in Hawaii, obviously. And the plot of Hula, according to the website Letterboxd, is the daughter of a pineapple plantation owner in Hawaii sets her sights on a married English engineer. And that's basically your plot in a nutshell of Hula. Hula is undoubtedly Clara Bow's popcorn movie. This is like the one surviving Clara Bow film that you can accurately describe as a popcorn movie where you just sit there, you turn your brain off, you eat your popcorn, and you just let the movie entertain you. It's light, it's fluffy, there's nothing deep about the story. I mean, Hula, a deep story? No way. Like I said, it's a popcorn movie. It just wants to entertain you, and it's fun. And the reason why it's fun, in my opinion, is because of Clara Bow herself. Clara is wonderful in the role of Hula. She plays Hula like a naive, overgrown child woman. And in the hands of any other actress, it might not have worked. But in Clara's hands, she makes Hula just totally adorable. Obsessive, perhaps, in the ways she goes about trying to hook Anthony, played by Clive Brook. Yeah, the moment she sets eyes on Anthony, she's just totally head over heels in love with him, and she's out to get her man at any cost. And I do mean at any cost. She'll do whatever it takes to get him. But nonetheless, you just can't help but love Hula, because you love Clara in the role. She's just charming, adorable. She really elevates this film, folks. She really does. I also like that scene at the beginning where she's frolicking in the water and she gets stung on her leg by a bee. And I'm telling you, folks, I think Clara actually said the F word. Look closely, look very carefully after she gets stung by the bee. And yeah, I think she actually said the F word. But hey, she got away with it because it's a silent movie. So no harm, no foul. I also like the scene where she initiates a poi eating contest at the dinner table. That's great fun. And she does a great hula dance, too. Besides, she does a wonderful hula dance in this film. In fact, I think what I read was that Clara Bow rehearsed the hula dance for 2 months before they shot it. And it's definitely one of the highlights of the movie. And yeah, great hula dance from Clara Bow. So yeah, Clara Bow, she's great. But she has a good supporting cast behind her. Clive Brook, of course, is the leading man in this film, playing Anthony Haldane, Hula's love interest in this film. And yeah, very charismatic English actor. I think he's quite charming in his role of Anthony. And I also like that scene where he jumps into the rapids to rescue Hula's dog. And then Hula jumps into the water to rescue Anthony, rescuing Hula's dog. But yeah, he's a very good leading man. I also liked Albert Gran in the role of Bill Calhoun, Hula's father. He's kind of like a Hawaiian version of Santa Claus, Albert Gran. Agostino Borgato as Uncle Edwin, Hula's loving uncle who helps look after her, along with Hula's father, because apparently Hula's mother passed away years ago. We're never told exactly how Hula's mother died or when. All we know is that Uncle Edwin has helped raise Hula. And yeah, Agostino Borgato, very charming in his role of Uncle Edwin. There's also Arlette Marshall, who plays Mrs. Bain. She's basically a neighborhood friend of the Calhoun family, I think. It's not that much of a role, but when she is on screen, she is quite likable. There's also Arnold Kent in the role of Harry DeHaan, who's Hula's other potential love interest, and I guess he's another family friend of the Calhouns. Again, not much of a role for him to play, but when he's on screen, he's fine. Arnold Kent as Harry DeHaan. And finally, I must also mention Patricia DuPont, who was also known back then as Miss DuPont, playing Margaret Haldane, Anthony's estranged wife, who Anthony admits to Hula he's not happily married to her because his wife only loves him for his money, which makes Hula try to hook him all the more. She says, oh, well, if you don't love your wife, then that's okay, right? Love me, Anthony, love me. But anyway, Patricia DuPont, yeah, she's quite amusing as Anthony's estranged wife. She comes across as very high class, very full of herself, and she's just a gold digger, basically. But I think she is quite amusing in the role of Margaret Haldane. I think Victor Fleming's direction of this movie is quite solid. I like the location stuff here. Some people have said that Hula's Hawaiian sets are not all that believable. I think they're fine. I think the Hawaiian sets are impressive enough. I like them. So I do like, the look of the film. And another thing that I like about Hula is that it's short. It's just a little over an hour. That's all. Just a little over an hour. The movie goes by very fast. It's a breeze to sit through. And I just think as an hour-long popcorn movie, Hula is great entertainment. And thanks to Clara Bow and her utterly charming performance as Hula, I think Clara really elevates this film. And it's worth noting that Hula is also the last surviving complete silent film that we have of Clara Bow's. Her next silent film, which is a movie called Get Your Man, unfortunately is incomplete, and all 4 silent movies that Clara Bow made in 1928 are lost. So Hula is Clara Bow's last surviving complete silent film, and I, for one, am glad that it survived. I think Hula is great fun, and I rank Hula at number 6. Entering the top 5 now. At number 5, we have Parisian Love from 1925, directed by Louis J. Gosnier. And the plot of Parisian Love, according to the DVD, is Marie is a wily Apache dancer who thrives off the American tourists slumming in Paris's seedy districts. When her lover Armand is shot during a robbery, Marie vows revenge upon the wealthy culprit, Pierre Marcel. With the help of a comical underworld matriarch and a sinister band of thieves, Marie trades in her wool cap and ragged trousers for ermine and lace in an elaborate plot to seduce Marcel. And that's basically your plot of Parisian Love. All right, Parisian Love. I love this film, despite the plot being widely criticized by many as being ridiculous. I just think this is a tremendously fun Clara Bow film. I really do. And it makes me all the more grateful that Parisian Love was found in 1998 after having been lost for so many years. One sole surviving print of Parisian Love was recovered in 1998, and it was cleaned up and polished and remastered and all of that. And I'm just grateful that we have it. You can say whatever you want to say about the plot, but I'm just reminded by that classic quote from Russell Crowe in the movie Gladiator when he shouts to the crowd, "Are you entertained?" And I am gloriously entertained by Parisian Love. I really am. Clara Bow, this is one of my favorite performances from Clara Bow in the role of Marie, playing this street woman who takes part in this robbery, and then from there, the plot thickens. And she's just marvelous as Marie. I just love the way she conducts herself in this film. She also gets to show off her comedy chops, her dramatic chops. I love the facial expressions and the way she moves. And she has marvelous screen presence. She's just a joy to watch in this film, even though you can say whatever you want to say about the crazy storyline. But Clara Bow and her cast, they take that script and they run with it, and what they came up with here was a grandly entertaining film. I also have to say, I really appreciate the direction by Louis J. Gosnier, who keeps the whole thing moving. Another thing I appreciate about Parisian Love, the film looks great. It's probably safe to say that they didn't actually shoot this film in Paris, but I'm telling you, all the sets, all the location footage here, I really did believe that we were in Paris. It's wonderfully shot by Alan Siegler. And another thing I like about Parisian Love, I like the title cards for this movie. The title cards look great because they decided to add drawings or paintings, if you like, to the title cards, at least a good chunk of them here, especially when a scene is about to begin. And I can't help but wonder if those drawings or those paintings are from the art direction drawings, art direction paintings that were done during the production of Parisian Love. And then the director decided, well, these drawings are really good. Let's use them in the title cards, something like that. But just the title cards look good. I also love the fact that they use color tinting in Parisian Love. There's times when the film turns up like gold, other times when it turns up blue. Oh, there's purple. And I think it really adds to the richness of the film. And at the center of it all, you've got Clara Bow in a wonderful performance as Marie. And let's see, she also has a good supporting cast here. Donald Keith, who has co-starred with Clara in a handful of films, he plays the male lead, Armand, Marie's lover. he might be a bit bland, but I do think he's still likable. And obviously, he was good enough to co-star with Clara Bow in several of her films, and I think he's good here. He's good enough here as Armand, Clara's main squeeze in the film. Lou Tellegen in the role of Pierre Marcel. It's a good performance. He's a very charismatic, handsome-looking guy as Pierre Marcel, the main guy who gets robbed by Marie and Armand, and this third robber who gets killed. But I have to tell you, his character of Pierre, he's quite gullible. The most questionable part of the plot of Parisian Love is the fact that Armand is injured during this botched robbery attempt, and Pierre says to Armand, "Because I recognize you as a former student of mine, I'm not going to call the police on you, dear boy. Instead, I'm going to keep you here at my house for the next 6 months and rehabilitate you. So by the end of those 6 months, you will become a better man. And not only that, dear boy, but I'm also going to get you a girlfriend. This is my friend Jeannie over here. She'll give you a kiss, and I hope you and her will get to know each other better, and you will be happy with her." I mean, what? That makes no sense to me at all. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. But, when it comes to this film, I just have to throw in the towel, and just go with it. I think it adds to the fun of this movie. And one other cast member I will mention is Lillian Leighton as Frouchard, the adoptive mother of Marie, and also a fellow con woman, if you like. And she joins Marie on some of the shenanigans later on in the film, and I have to admit, she is quite funny. There's a good scene when Marie and Frouchard go undercover at Pierre Marcel's home during a dance party, and Marie is constantly ribbing Frouchard, just ribbing her, trying to get her to behave. That's very funny. Clara also gets a funny scene in this film where she dresses up as a maid to do another bit of undercover work at Pierre Marcel's home. And, she's being hit on by a couple of these male party guests, and she gets tough with them. And then there's one scene where the guy has his back turned, and she's just about to kick him, but then her cover's blown, and she doesn't go through with the kick. But it's a very funny moment for Clara Bow. I mean, that's one of the things that I love about Clara Bow is that she was so good with comedy, and she was so good with physical comedy, and you can see that quite clearly here in Parisian Love. I love the two dance sequences that Clara Bow gets to do in this film. I mean, we get a dance sequence right at the beginning of the film in a French dive where it's like this passionate salsa dance or something like that, and one bit where Clara's dancing with her dance partner and he's swinging her around as she's holding on to his neck. That's really cool. And then later on, Clara gets to do a really good dance at Pierre Marcel's home, like a ballroom style kind of dance. And Clara Bow, she was a great hoofer. Really good dancing from her in this film as well. So yeah, Parisian Love, folks. I just think Parisian Love, despite the criticism of the plot, which is a very silly plot, I admit, but I just think this film is just tremendous fun. It is great entertainment. It also helps that Parisian Love is just a little over an hour long. Just a little over an hour. So yeah, it's a breeze to sit through. Won't take you long to watch it. And it's tremendous entertainment. I love this film, and I'm so very glad that Parisian Love was found. And it's one of my personal favorites from Clara Bow. And I rank Parisian Love at number 5.
Ladies and gentlemen,
at number 4 is Dangerous Curves from 1929. This was directed by Lothar Mendez. And in this film, Clara Bow plays a bareback rider in a circus named Pat Delaney, who's in love with a trapeze artist named Larry, played by Richard Arlen. And hey, Richard Arlen, he co-starred with Clara in the Oscar-winning film Wings. Yes, so Clara Bow and Richard Arlen together again in Dangerous Curves. All right, Dangerous Curves. This is the Clara Bow movie that takes place at the circus. I really love Dangerous Curves. I think this is a Clara Bow film that's very charming, and I think it tells a very entertaining story. I love the circus setting for this film. The circus setting is really good. The footage we see of high wire acts going on, really good stuff. Some of the other circus stunts and things that we see in the film, I think, are quite good. I think the direction by Lothar Mendez is also quite good. And I have to say, I think Clara Bow is wonderful in this film. I think she's adorable. She's charming in the role of Pat. I just adore her in this film. I really do. I think she and her Wings co-star Richard Arlen have really good chemistry here as Pat and Larry. I love the scene where they're talking with each other about Pat's late father, who was a trapeze artist himself. They also have a really sweet scene in a cafeteria where they're talking over a cup of coffee, where Clara Bow puts like 5 scoops of sugar in the coffee. It's a very charming scene. I like that scene with them a lot. I also think Clara Bow has a wonderful moment in the film where she's talking to herself in the mirror, where she's basically imagining herself as a famous trapeze artist, and she's doing the ringmaster, ladies and gentlemen, blah, 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 and she's doing this into the mirror. And that's a great moment for Clara Bow. I just totally love her in this film. I think Clara's wonderful. And great to see her co-star Richard Arlen in this movie. We get to hear his voice for the first time, because obviously Wings was a silent film, but this time around we get to hear Richard Arlen speak. And yeah, he's quite good. I think overall he's very good in the movie, with maybe his scenes where he's trying to be drunk not very convincing, because his character of Larry has a drinking problem, and there are scenes where he has to be drunk, and those are scenes where Richard Arlen puts on, the drunk man voice, that stereotypical drunk man voice of, I've had a little too much to drink and now I'm drunk, the drunk man voice. But overall, I still like him as Larry, and it's just great to see him and Clara Bow together again. I also have to make mention, this was, I believe, the first film ever for Kay Francis, a young Kay Francis, who, of course, would become a very successful movie actress herself. Dangerous Curves, I believe, was her first film, where she's playing the vamp Zara, who's basically no good for Larry, and, she's having an affair with the other trapeze artist, Tony, played by David Newell. But Kay Francis, yeah, very smooth, very sultry as Zara, and I think Kay Francis shows in this film that she was definitely going places, absolutely, in the role of Zara. So really great to see Kay Francis here in this film. I also want to make mention of the delightful Joyce Compton as Jenny Silver, another bareback rider in the circus, along with Clara Bow's Pat. And Joyce Compton, you saw her before in Clara Bow's very first talkie, The Wild Party. So Joyce Compton, once again co-starring with Clara Bow in Dangerous Curves. And Joyce Compton, very funny actress, very lovely lady she was herself, and quite charming in her supporting role of Jenny Silver. So great to see Joyce Compton in this. I do, however, have another criticism of the film, which is David Newell in the role of Tony, who's the rival trapeze artist. He looks way too much like Richard Arlen. They look like twin brothers, and there are definitely scenes in this movie where I kept getting David Newell and Richard Arlen confused. David Newell would be on screen as Tony, and I think it's Richard Arlen. And then Richard Arlen shows up later on, and I go, that was Tony. That wasn't Larry. That was Tony. David Newell and Richard Arlen, they look too similar, and I think that was a mistake on the air of the casting director. Whoever the casting director was on Dangerous Curves, he or she really should have casted an actor who doesn't look anything like Richard Arlen in the role of Tony, because I just feel that David Newell, even though he is good in the role of Tony, he and Richard Arlen, they look too similar, and I kept getting them confused as I watched the film. One more thing I appreciate about Dangerous Curves is that it has a wonderful redemption arc for Clara's character of Pat, because early on in the film, she makes the stupid mistake of informing Richard Arlen's character of Larry about Zara's affair with the other trapeze artist, Tony. And she tells Larry this just before he's going to go out on the high wire and perform. And naturally, Larry is upset about this. He goes out on the high wire. He can't concentrate on his high wire act because he's thinking about Zara and Tony, and he falls off the high wire. Thankfully, he survives the fall, but obviously he's messed up for quite a while. I mean, he could have been killed. And it wouldn't have happened if only Pat had kept her mouth shut and not told Larry about the affair between Zara and Tony. But the wonderful thing about Dangerous Curves is that it allows Clara's character of Pat to redeem herself and make it up to Larry for almost getting him killed. And it all leads to a happy ending. So yeah, I really love Dangerous Curves. Count me as one of the Clara Bow fans who was totally charmed by Dangerous Curves. I think it's a very charming film with a lot of heart. Wonderful performance from Clara Bow, a fine performance from Richard Arlen. Great to see Clara and Richard back together again in this film after starring together in the Oscar winner Wings. So I love Dangerous Curves. It's one of my favorite Clara Bow films, absolutely. And I rank Dangerous Curves at number 4.
Man is young, and we are young.
At number 3, the bronze medalist in Clara Bow's surviving filmography, in my opinion, The Wild Party from 1929, directed by Dorothy Arzner. And the plot of The Wild Party, according to the movie website Letterboxd, is: wild girls at a college pay more attention to parties than their classes, but when one party girl, Stella Ames, goes too far at a local bar and gets in trouble, her professor has to rescue her. Gossip linking the two escalates until Stella proves she is decent by shielding an innocent girl and winning the professor's respect. And that's basically your plot of The Wild Party. The Wild Party, Clara Bow's very first talkie, and in my opinion, her best talkie. I love The Wild Party. Love, 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 love this film. It's not a perfect film. There is one particular thing about it that I do find questionable, and we'll get to that shortly. But overall, I think The Wild Party is tremendous fun. I think it's great entertainment. And again, it's a very important film in Clara Bow's filmography because it was her very first talkie. And for her debut in the world of sound films, I think Clara did a marvelous job, even though everybody says that Clara was very, very nervous when she made The Wild Party, because obviously she was not used to acting for sound films. She was very much a silent film actress, and now all of a sudden the whole world was going to hear her speak for the very first time. And as it turned out, Clara Bow had a very, Brooklyn, New York kind of accent. And Clara was very, very concerned that a lot of people in her audience were not going to like listening to her speaking voice. So it was up to director Dorothy Arzner to put Clara at ease. And another thing that Dorothy Arzner did to put Clara at ease was that Dorothy created the boom mic. I mean, she practically invented the boom mic, which is basically the device where the microphone is on a stick and the mic person can follow the actor around with the boom mic so he or she can be heard by the microphone, while he or she is also free to move freely about the set. And it was all done by director Dorothy Arzner in order to make Clara feel more comfortable with the microphone. So The Wild Party definitely has historical value in that regard as well. But anyway, The Wild Party, this is a comedy film that takes place at an all-female college, an all-female university, and I just think it's great fun. I really enjoyed watching the hijinks that Clara Bow and her fellow sorority sisters in The Wild Party get into, whether they're causing some hijinks at a costume party, or they go to a local bar and cause some more hijinks with some drunken men, or watching the blossoming romance between Clara Bow's Stella and Frederick March's Professor Gilmore. I just think this film is great entertainment. However, there's one particular element of The Wild Party that some people in the audience might find controversial, and that is the subject of a male university teacher, played by Frederick March, falling in love with a female university student of his, played by Clara Bow. Look, all I can say in defense of The Wild Party is The Wild Party is a film from 1929, okay? This movie was made well over 90 years ago. In fact, 95 years ago at the time that I'm recording this. And obviously, it wasn't a big deal to anybody back in 1929, the plot of male university teacher and female university student falling in love. And The Wild Party, I mean, it's a product of its time. So don't worry about it. It's a fun movie, and it's one of my favorites from Clara Bow. Once again, Clara Bow, she may have been nervous as hell making her first talkie, but you could have fooled me. She looks quite comfortable to me, and I'm sure director Dorothy Arzner definitely had a role to play there in making Clara comfortable in front of the microphone, and I think Clara gives a marvelous performance. Clara Bow is looking so gorgeous in this film. Very lovely woman, of course, and she's just plain fun. And, I like that Brooklyn, New York accent of hers, It suits her just fine, and I think she's quite appealing in the role. She's always been an appealing actress, and even in talkies, she's still 100% appealing. And if I haven't made it clear enough already, I like her speaking voice. I like her speaking voice very much. and I think she did a great job in her first talkie. I also have to say she's given wonderful support by her fellow female cast members, who are all very talented, lovely ladies. Joyce Compton, Adrienne Dorr, Marceline Day, Shirley O'Hara. All the women in this film are gorgeous, and they're all very talented actresses. They are all very funny, and I think they give great support to Clara Bow. And of course, you have the one, the only, Frederick March, the Academy Award-winning actor Frederick March, playing the university teacher James Gilmore. And I think he and Clara Bow have great chemistry together. I think Dorothy Arzner's direction is tight. I really enjoy her direction of this film and directing Clara Bow in her very first talkie. So well done, Dorothy Arzner. I just think this is a great fun film. I mean, seeing Clara Bow and her fellow sorority sisters and all the shenanigans they get up to at this university, and seeing the budding romance between Clara Bow and Frederick March's characters of Stella and Gil. And I just think The Wild Party is tremendous fun. One of Clara Bow's very best. It was her very first talkie, and in my opinion, her very best talkie. And I rank The Wild Party at number 3. At number 2, the runner-up Clara Bow movie, in my opinion, It, from 1927. It, directed by Clarence G. Badger. This is Clara Bow's signature comedy, folks. This is the film that made Clara Bow the It Girl. This is the film that made Clara Bow a superstar. And the plot of It, according to the internet, is: when she first sets eyes on her new boss, the wealthy Cyrus Waltham Jr., department store clerk Betty Lou Spence is convinced that he's got it, an indefinable quality that makes one irresistible to the opposite sex. Betty Lou charms her employer on a date, but Cyrus suddenly cools when he hears a false story that Betty Lou has mothered an illegitimate child. Crushed by Cyrus's assumption, the shop girl ramps up the sex appeal to win her man back and teach him a lesson. And that is your plot of It. Yes, folks, It, the all-time comedy classic from Clara Bow that made her a star and made her the It Girl. You watch It, and you totally understand why this particular film sent Clara Bow rocketing into the stratosphere as the biggest movie star of her day. It's just a marvelous film. It's just funny. It's got a lot of warmth to it. It's very delightful. It's very engaging, just like Clara Bow herself in this film. Again, the way Clara conducts herself in this film, her delightful, cheerful behavior, her facial expressions, just the way she moves, and just the pure joy that she exudes on the screen. I mean, just that one scene where she's in her apartment with her down-on-her-luck roommate, Molly, played by Priscilla Bonner. And we see Clara. She takes a pair of scissors and she starts cutting up her own work dress in order to make a fancy party dress out of it. I mean, Claire's just cutting up her own dress, but she has so much cheer and delight on her face. And I really wondered to myself how many takes it took Clara to do that scene where she's cutting up her dress, her own dress, with a pair of scissors. If she had done it in one take, that's mind-blowing, but I mean, I don't know. But it's a delightful scene, and she's just a joy to behold. And in fact, that was one of the reviews of It at the time. Some movie critic back in 1927 said quite plainly that Clara Bow is a joy to behold in It. And she is. I love the scene where she's in the office with her boss Cyrus, and that scene where she's talking to Cyrus and then she just lays out on his desk, and you know, she flings her legs up in the air, and she's swishing her legs in the air as she's lying on Cyrus's desk talking to him. That is a all-time classic Clara Bow moment, that's for sure. And I think that's another one of the signature moments in the film that made Clara a star with audiences. I mean, it really is. You just got to watch her in this film and you will be a believer. You will become a believer in the magic that is Clara Bow. You know, she's just so delightful and so warm and funny and beautiful. And this movie also gives her a lot of great comic scenes. There's another great scene in the film where she and her boss, Cyrus, played by Antonio Moreno, where they go to the amusement park at Coney Island. And it's just so funny, you know, watching them just having a great time at Coney Island. and going on the various rides and, eating the hot dogs. And they go on this ride, which is basically just spins a bunch of people around and around and flings them off into these mattresses. That's a very funny scene. Or they go on another ride where it looks like it's a escalator gone crazy, where it's constantly going up and down, constantly up and down. Just little bits where another bit where, Clara Bow as Betty Lou, when she gets back to her apartment that she shares with Molly, she's just so happy, and she's like literally dancing up the stairs as she goes upstairs to her apartment. And you cannot help but fall in love with her. You just can't help it. I mean, she is marvelous. She's given a great supporting cast. Again, you've got Antonio Moreno playing her boss, Cyrus T. Waltham, her boss at the department store. And, he is indeed quite charming, absolutely charming in his performance. And it's not difficult to see why he falls for Clara in this film. William Austin as Cyrus's best friend, Monty, who also befriends Betty Lou. Yeah, he is quite funny. He's very, very funny, very charming in his role of Monty. I liked him a lot. Priscilla Bonner, very good in her supporting role of Molly, Clara's roommate, who's down on her luck. Yeah, I like Priscilla Bonner very much in her supporting role as Molly, and I do feel sympathetic for her character and what she's going through. And I just think that's marvelous how Clara, in the role of Betty Lou, that she really steps up and defends Molly regarding being a single mom and the trouble that Molly gets into, and how Betty Lou wants to defend her. So there you go, folks. I love It. It is an all-time classic. It's Clara Bow's signature film. It's the film that made her the It Girl. It's the film that made her a star. It's a wonderful first movie to watch if you've never seen Clara Bow's films before. You can't do better than starting out with It. Wonderful comedy, delightful comedy, charming, fun, and a fabulous showcase for the wonderful, magical, beautiful Clara Bow. It's a classic, and I rank it at number 2. And at number 1, my all-time favorite Clara Bow movie, Wings, from 1927. The classic World War I drama directed by William A. Wellman, and the very first film to win the Academy Award for Best Picture. And the plot of Wings from the website Letterboxd is: 2 young men, one rich and one middle class, both in love with the same woman, become U.S. Air Corps fighter pilots and eventually heroic flying aces during World War I. Devoted best friends, their mutual love of the girl eventually threatens their bond. Meanwhile, a hometown girl who's the love-struck, lifelong next-door neighbor of one of them pines away. And that's your basic plot of Wings. So, Wings. This was the big epic film that Clara Bow made in her film career. All of Clara Bow's films are short, with the lone exception of Wings, because Wings clocks in at a little under 2.5 hours, and directed by William A. Wellman, who also had experience as a soldier in the war, and he also had experience as a fighter pilot himself. And, Wings is a landmark film. As I said, this was the very first movie to win the Oscar for Best Picture. So for that reason alone, Wings is in the history books. It is a fantastic film straight across the board. I read an interview, or at least an interview quote from Clara Bow that she did way back when, and I was sad to read that Wings was not a personal favorite film of Clara Bow herself. As Clara said in an interview way back when, that in her opinion, Wings was, quote, a man's picture, being that it was a World War I drama for the most part, and there's a lot of wartime stuff going on. And Clara also made the comment that she felt that her role in the film as Mary Preston, that she was basically just the whipped cream on top of the pie. In other words, Clara Bow felt that, she was simply brought into Wings just to be the female in the film. I sincerely hope that Clara Bow did realize that Wings was a great film, that it was a classic film, that it was an outstanding film, even if it wasn't her personal favorite film of all the ones she made. But I do hope she realized how great a film it really, truly is. But I gotta tell you, you take Clara Bow out of Wings, and it's not as special a film. It wouldn't be the same anymore. I mean, Clara's not the only reason why Wings is a fantastic film. I mean, the filmmaking is fantastic. William A. Wellman's direction is fantastic. The aerial dogfight scenes in this film are outstanding. The fact that this stuff was shot back in 1927 is just amazing. And the fact is, whenever you see any of the actors in this film flying their planes, they really are flying their planes. That really is Charles Buddy Rogers flying his plane. That really is Richard Arlen flying the plane. I mean, Richard Arlen, who plays David, he already had experience as a fighter pilot, so flying the plane was pretty easy for him. Charles Buddy Rogers, on the other hand, who plays Jack, he actually had to go to flight school and learn how to fly a plane. But believe it or not, he learned it, and he went up there and he actually flew the plane. Just incredible. The cinematography, the direction from William A. Wellman is so tight, you know, the camera angles and the shots that he gets. And that aerial dogfight stuff, my God, Tom Cruise, eat your heart out. Because Wings is, without question, the original Top Gun. No question about it. They were doing Top Gun long before Top Gun did Top Gun in 1927. And those aerial dogfight scenes are absolutely outstanding. So Clara's not the only reason why Wings is the great film that it is. But damn it, she's definitely one of the reasons. And there's no question about it that this film would not be the truly special film that it is without Clara Bow's marvelous, delightful, adorable performance as Mary Preston, who's totally lovesick for her next-door neighbor, Jack, played by Charles Buddy Rogers. I mean, the scene where she's helping him build his car called the Shooting Star. Actually, it's Mary who comes up with the name Shooting Star. In a very delightful scene. Mary herself joins the war later on as an ambulance driver, so she gets involved with the war, and her scenes later on where she's driving the truck and the town that she rides in is being bombed. She survives it, of course, thank God. The scene where she meets up with Jack later on in Paris in the hotel room where he's just totally drunk and she's trying to sober him up. It's also a scene where she momentarily disrobes, which is interesting. I think that was a pretty racy kind of scene for 1927, even though, you know, you really don't see anything, you know. But I mean, the scene in the hotel is great. Admittedly, Clara Bow is not in the entire movie. In fact, in the second half of the film, after the scene in the hotel with her and Jack, she disappears from the film for nearly an hour. In fact, I would say like 49 minutes, 50 minutes of the film she's gone, and then she comes back for the last scene with Jack, you know, with Charles Buddy Rogers. But every time Clara is on the screen, she makes her scenes count. She really does. And she adds a special bit of magic to the film, being the main female presence in the film. She may not be in the entire film, but when she's there, you know, she just totally lights up the screen. And I have to tell you, Wings was the very first film that I saw Clara Bow in. This was my introduction to Clara Bow, Wings. So, you know, she's marvelous in this film. I also got to give props to her two main male co-stars, Charles Buddy Rogers as Jack and Richard Arlen as David. They make a great pair in this film. Great screen presence from both of them. And like I said, I give my props to both of these guys because they really were flying those planes. Great leading men, both of them, in this film, Charles Buddy Rogers and Richard Arlen. We have to make mention of the celebrated cameo by a young Gary Cooper, playing a role called Cadet White, who Jack and David meet in one of the barracks, I think it is. Gary Cooper has only one scene. That's it. He talks to Jack and David for a while. He eats a chocolate bar, and then he leaves, and that's it. But I'm telling you, Gary Cooper, man, he stole that scene. Because, you know, he was such a good-looking guy. He was tall. He was handsome. Great smile. So look out for Gary Cooper in the important cameo role of Cadet White. Wings is a classic film for all time. It really is, and I really do believe this was the best film Clara Bow ever made, even if it wasn't a personal favorite film of hers. But when Clara Bow is on screen, she totally lights up the screen, and Wings wouldn't be the same without her. It really wouldn't. And it's just an amazing film, one of the greatest wartime films ever made, and it set the bench really high for war films, including stuff with aerial dogfight scenes. And it's the original Top Gun, folks. It really is. When I look back at all of Clara Bow's surviving films, Wings is the one that I have the most affection for. It really, truly is. I love and adore Wings. It is a classic film, and it's got the Oscar for Best Picture, the first Oscar for Best Picture to show for it. And I rank Wings at number 1. And there you have it, folks. Those are my favorite Clara Bow movies.